and we can work through how to code these transcripts together. Is everyone okay with that? Just need to find them. It'll take 2 seconds to do. My apologies. It'll literally take 2 seconds. Okay. So this is interview one. So if we had to look at this together, right, and remember our initial bit that we start with our codes. A code would be a small descriptive term for an excerpt from a particular interview. We would then go to categories. Be very difficult because I've only got one interview here. But I think what we can do together tonight is to get a sense of how the coding and then that transition to the categories and then the transition to the and then the transition to the themes. So if we look very quickly at the interview transcript, so this is GPT generated. So I cheated a little bit with this one. So you can see the title, Evolution of Leadership Style within Remote Environments, interviewer, interviewee, when it happened, virtual, etc. So with that in the back of our mind, if we had to work through this and code that interview, what are some of the key takeaways that we would have in the first one? What would be in the first bit of information? So here is the question: when your team transitioned to fully, what was the most significant challenge? Okay, so some of the stuff has been highlighted and chat did that. So what would be the first bit of code that we would allocate to that? Now, remember, this is an incredible personal experience. So when you do your transcripts, I would suggest do your own coding because you are closer to the actual information. You understand the information better. And I would suggest that you do your own codes. So if we look at that first one there, okay. So the question is challenge. For me, the code would be this. Okay. I would translate that into my code. What would we have as a code for that? What could we use as a code for that? What could we use as a code for that? That first bit. So if I had to do it, the way I would do it, I would go there. I would go, let me just try and remember how to do this properly. I would put new comment. My code would be okay. So and the reason I use it this way is because afterwards I will cut these out and stick them to post-it notes. So for me, that would be my code. What would you have as your code? Because obviously that is a significant comment, that bit there. Is it teamwork? Because teamwork includes both of those, or would you have a different code or a different description? Almost you with me? Anyone else, guys? I'm very happy to listen. What would be your description? Kim, you can also see that. Okay. So I don't want to drive this process. Now, the reason I do this, just to say again, is that I do it this way. I then will cut out these bits and pieces here. I will stick them to post-it notes. And once I've done that, I will organize those like for like ideas together into my categories. And that will show you to do as well. Okay, so what else would be something to code here? What else would be something to code here? And see, for me, I would have something. Oh my gosh, look where that's put it there, silly Billy. Okay, so I would have something here I would have here um, um, formal communications, because I think we know, anyone who's ever worked in an office, that a lot of problems get solved there, just where you get people together. The other one that we could have also in terms of this, and maybe I've got it wrong, is that spontaneity is inhibited, and maybe that is a better description. So maybe a better description is something like, and I know I'll check my spelling in a second. What am I misspelling here, guys? Spontaneous problem. I misspelled spontaneous there, guys. Someone help me because like is Afrikaans. Surely I'm not this dumb. Oh, I'm an idiot. That's why. Thank you for helping me and pointing and laughing at me. Come on, Pelser. Oh, you've got it there. Thanks, Almas. Thank you so much. I'm useless. Thanks, Michaela. I'm an idiot. So immediately, can you see my thinking there? Because it's spontaneity in this, in the problem solving. What code would you have used there? What would your code have been there? Is that a reasonable code to use?
I would also say loss of communication. Um,
Okay,
something a bit
so yeah, loss of communication. So loss of informal communication.
informal communication.
That's
Yes,
part of it as
yes,
well. Or loss of
yes.
informal problem solving.
There we
Absolutely
go.
fine.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a very, 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 very personal thing. It can be a phrase, not a singular term. So the examples I've given you, it would be very difficult to have a single term. So what you want is a concept that embraces an idea that is communicated within here. So for me, it is the idea of using a concept. Okay. So Walter, I don't follow your thinking in this one, Boya, because I don't, you see, I see it slightly differently. So for me, the next one is just um, significant planning required. Now, if you can use a single term, if you can use a single term, that's fantastic. Okay. I mean, that's absolutely fine. But sometimes the concepts are a little bit broader than the single term. To answer your question, Michaela, any comments on that one? So that is your coding process. The truth is, this is a very lonely process. No one else can do your coding for you. Now, you don't have to agree with those, obviously. I mean, that's not the point of me doing this, and I'm making it up as I sit here. But it is very much a lonely process. It is an individual process, and it is a tough process. This is a tough process, but it's to capture an entire sentence in as few words as possible. And it's possibly not the best example, so my apologies for that.
Kenny,
Okay,
could we
so
say it's almost like, sorry, could we say
yeah,
it's almost like really summarizing, like when we were at school and we had to summarize? Like, could we say it's like really, really summarizing it to as little words as possible? Is
Absolutely.
that
It's
what
taking
coding
in a
is?
broad idea and turning it into a concept, which is a
Yeah.
summary process. But it's taking a broad idea and turn it into a concept, because it's the concepts that we are going to add together when we start doing the actual tying them together into categories. We're deciphering what they're saying, but we also summarizing, but turning it into these concepts, these notions, instead of having to to explain the entire idea. But it is a process of deciphering as well. So that's where, Walter, I have a bit of a problem. I'm missing your point there, boy. I'm sorry to pick on you. Okay. So this idea, you have to be more intentional. For me, it ties in with planning. It ties in with planning. So if we go at the second one, and I'm not going to talk now, okay? The loss of informal is a recurring thing. How did you adapt your communication style to that? So loss of informal communication could have also been a code, because, that's close enough to what we've said. So how have you how to change your style? What would we put as our codes here? And I'm in your hands here. Again, I'm not following your thinking there, Gerard. Okay, structured communication style. Okay, absolutely. What about even structured communication? And you can see again this idea of so um, planned communication. You know, guys, I'm not the best example here, because I really am also just making it up. But I think the truth is that, and then obviously here, the extensive use, because Slack is what we have as teams, I would imagine. Multimodal, 100%, 100% there. Okay, so multimodal communications, because we use Slack informal questions. Yeah, so that fits in there, the multimodal one. Okay, just going to copy from what you said. Next. Okay. So you can see that a pattern is starting to evolve. The need to plan, the need to use multi modes. All of those essentially will be what you get from your interviews. So if you sit, and let me tell you, you're going to have to transcribe your interviews. Please do not think you can listen to an interview and do this. For me, it's a non-negotiable. And it's a non-negotiable, and your pod leader should be telling you this as well. You have to spend time working, planning, and literally transcribing your interviews. And once you've done that, it is about reading and rereading, looking for deeper meaning, looking for these patterns, these codes, these suggestions that come out of it. And the best person to do it is you, because you are closer to the actual data than anyone else. Okay, so it's interesting that this is picked up here as well. That okay, let me leave it with you, because my interpretation is very specific. What can we draw from that? I think part of working sometimes, and I'm inferring a little bit. That's it. So for me, the idea that a lot of us go to work because it gets bloody lonely at home. I mean, that was one of the biggest issues during COVID, that some of the lecturers struggled. Now, I was quite happy to not have interactions face to face with people, but some of the lecturers really struggled. And the moment they could get back to work is because they missed the friendships, they missed those kinds of, how are things, how are the kids, how is everyone doing, what did you do the weekend? So for me, that could be it, the importance of relationships or maintaining relationships through electronic means. Okay. And that's what you're going to do, guys. You have to work through these line by line. Once you've done that, I would then cut those bits and pieces out. I would cut that out, stick it on a post-it note. I would have my dining room table cleared, and I would then logically combine the similar ideas, similar codes, similar thoughts, and I would stick those on top of each other because those become your categories. Those become your categories. And then once you've got your category sorted, you can combine those categories, those piles of post-its, and then no, there is, I hate that. Because remember, this is a data-driven process almost. So for me to say you need 5 is ridiculous. But generally, I would be very surprised if you have fewer than 5 themes. But it's data driven. We, because of the nature of this kind of research, because it's inductive, we don't know where we're going to end up. And it's a strange thing to say, but we don't know where the endpoint is because we are creating the endpoint after every step that we take. And you're right, Michaela, it depends on your data, it depends on what's come out of your interviews. But I would be very surprised that, you generally, we find that you end up with 4 or 5. Okay. But again, that is just pure nonsense that I'm talking, but I'm looking at what we've had in the past. Okay. The other thing that's come through from my honors, which is deeply concerning, is that you cannot have a single category summarizing into a single theme. Multiple codes become your categories, multiple categories become your themes. It is a transition process. And my concern is that in some of my honor students that I marked last week, they had their code and then a category, and they simply just renamed the category to call it something else as a theme. Multiple categories would combine into your themes. So be very cautious of that. It is that process. And remember this one that I'd shared previously with you. Hold on a sec. Let me try and find it quickly. I don't want to mess this one up. Yeah. So the key is this bit here. Oh, come on, Pelser. Remember this example that I had shared previously? That's not the greatest topic. Okay, this is now being full of nonsense. Remember this? Okay, so multiple codes become fewer categories become even fewer themes. Michaela, just explain that. Is this what you're asking me? So you can see, so those would be your codes. So the codes that we've just created in the previous one, those then would summarize into that. This is my best example that I've got. Now, as I do this, and I really hate it when I do this, I'm thinking of one of my submissions from my students, and I just need to do it here and you guys can glance at that. I'm trying to think okay, which of my students did really well. Hold on. Yes. Um, quickly, and this is stuff that has just come in. I'm not going to be able to hide her name, but I'm sure she'll be fine with it. Um, so let me just kill this off. So this is their second to last submission. Sorry, guys, I'm struggling to find a really good one. Okay, so she's gone and done it really in a big way, but you can see how she's done it. So she's got the transcripts and then created the codes from her transcripts. Maybe this is not the best example. Sorry, I should have checked before I did this. But this is the best example that I have. I cannot find anything better than that. Your codes into your categories, into your themes. That takes blood, sweat, and tears. That takes serious work to do. Okay, is that enough as an example? I think you said yes. And you do this for every single one of your interviews, guys. You do this for every one of your interviews, and you'll work through it and you'll do those kinds of codes. My suggestion, as per always, do it on your table. Take this, cut this out, stick it to a post-it note, and then on your dining room table, start piling up those post-it notes that have similar messages on top of each other. Label your category. Once you've labeled your categories, you will then move forward and put those categories into the themes, and you'll label the theme. One category cannot be a theme because that's just ridiculous. Then you might as well just do thematic coding and go straight from your codes to your themes. Any questions? Anything else, guys, that we need to look at here? The only time we can do this is when you've got your transcripts. This is the only time. And to just repeat myself, this is not easy. This is a laborious, this is a tough process. Once you've done that, once you've done your themes, you then will discuss each of those themes, right? You will discuss the themes and discuss it in terms of the content and the codes and give a description of that theme. You will then link that theme back to your literature. You will then link that theme back to your theoretical framework, and then you will link the theme and those themes to your research questions, your research problem to see whether your findings have addressed it. But that's down the road. That's not very soon. The time you get to this is a tough time. Let me tell you, this is not easy. You will convince yourself that you're the dumbest person in the world. And can I just say, my students did this on a Sunday night. Their submission was on a Monday. And yeah, it was one of the weekends where I took calls on a Sunday night from students because it is tough. So believe me, this doesn't happen automatically. Any questions, any comments at this stage? And we can look at others. So you can see here, not the best example. So if you want to see how these people have coded, you can see what they mean. Okay, so again, an entire description, and they've moved straight from the codes to the themes. I don't think we should do that. Muzamil, honestly, if it isn't difficult, then everyone would be doing it. I promise you that every single one of my students ended up with codes. No, we don't, Michaela. What I need to see, though, is that when you submit it, that you submit this, that you submit your transitions for us. Because for us, you're going to make certain leaps and assumptions as you transition from your codes to your categories to your themes. So this, for me, must be an annexure or an appendix in your submission. Guys, remember, make it look good, because there are marks for appearance. So make this look good. I mean, I have no issue, and I'm pretty sure some of you will do this in color. But it is for us, if the marker wants to see your leap and assumptions. For me, it's giving those little breadcrumbs that will take us through your transitions, through your assumptions, through your thought processes. And that's why I'm so impressed with this one, because I can see the transitions there, and it's not my field whatsoever. So you have to, once you've done your codes and your categories and your themes, present them like that. It makes it a lot easier. And Muzamil, promise you, bud, you will sweat through it. I guarantee you that you will get this right, because everyone gets it right. I mean, if we look at doing another one very quickly, and I'm going to jump a question. Okay, so this idea of employee well-being. Okay, yeah. So codes, categories, themes, and you transition from left, from right to left. Um, I'll do it the night you guys do this. How's that, boy? And can I tell you, and we, if you decide to get hold of me because you're struggling, my words to you will be, take a break, because you will become so bogged down in your own thoughts. That is when you take a half-hour break so that the unconscious can do its work. And do not underestimate the power of the unconscious. Because, I mean, my one student, I instructed to go for a drive because he couldn't get past an impasse. And he drove half hour, he came back, and he had found the solution. So don't, if it gets too difficult, sweat and sweat and sweat. Take a step away, get your mind clear, let the unconscious work. Guys, I believe in the power of the unconscious. I seriously do. That's where you get those aha moments from. So, Muzamil, when you get stuck, that's my instruction to you. Walk away from this. Go have a cup of coffee. Go and throw a ball. Go kick a ball. I mean, just so your mind is completely distracted. Okay. Go and drive, boyo. Go and drive. It's the best thing ever. It clears the mind. I absolutely love driving. Yeah, no, I thought so, but I didn't want to say anything because there would be some implication around a stereotype there. Indian boys racing down the road. I promise you that's where my mind was going the moment you said drive, boy. So you must know how I live and love stereotypes. Larissa has given up. Might not have a job after today. Yeah. You, yeah, you can't take the Indian boy out of the BMW, and you can't take the BMW out of the Indian boy. Oh, Muzamil. Live up to the stereotype, boy. Live it with pride. Oh my gosh, but people are predictable. Emma's van Moesamel. Oh my goodness me. Sorry, I needed that. I've been so buggered, but I think Moesamel's just made my night, actually. Don't get bogged down. When it gets tough, you go and take a break. Guys, you take a proper break. Half hour, walk away from this. I'm not a big fan of naps, almost, and I know you said naps. Not a fan of naps. Just let the unconscious do its magic. For me, it literally was going out and feeding my bunnies. That's how I got through it. When I got really stuck, I went outside and I went and fed my bunnies. And oh dear, my word. Oh, a walk is a wonderful, wonderful idea. Really and truly, a walk is a wonderful idea. The unconscious is an amazing thing. Oh, that aha moment. That aha moment. And you're right. Thanks, Michaela. Yeah, well, if you have to redo it 4 times, you redo it 4 times. That's tough luck. This is not meant to be easy. This is meant to be blood, sweat, and tears. If it was easy, everyone would do it. Trying to sound like a sports coach talking you guys up. The Computer M5. Okay. Guys, I have bugger all else to say to you. If you're happy, can we leave it there? I think you know what you have to do. Get your interviews done, get your transcripts done, and then go and do what we've just done. Keep it as simple. Do it with the comments. Cut the comments out, stick them on post-it notes, combine those post-it notes logically into categories, label the category. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for attending, everyone. My apologies that it was a little bit hickledy-pickledy, but I think that was good. Go for it. Wizimal, part two. What happened? Cheers, Almas. Cheers, everyone. Have a good evening. I'll hang around. Guys, cheers, cheers. Have a good evening, everyone. Oh, wonderful, Gerard. I'll hang around if you want to chat about part two, Boya. Okay, tomorrow we'll do it tomorrow, Boya. Cheers, everyone. Take care. Have a good one.